Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. Warzone has been out long enough at this point that we can see the very clear skill gaps, right? At first, there was a general weapon skill gap where you had to learn how certain weapons worked, especially over range, whether they were really good for, 0 to 20 meter fights or 20 to 60 meter fights, whatever the case may be. You also had to go the extra mile and learn all the recoil patterns. As we know, all the weapons in the game have predictable recoil, so if you learn the pattern, you pretty much know how to use the weapon for its entirety, of its lifespan, right? But there is something that's come across the Warzone meta, you could say, over the course of like the last, I would say, half a year, and that is the movement meta and the movement skill gap, which I would say right now is the real only big skill gap that we have left in Warzone, because at this point we know the weapons, obviously we know the map because that really hasn't changed all that much, but the movement skill gap is really what separates great players from good players from just, mediocre casual players. So today I wanted to give you guys a few pointers and a few tips on how to improve your general gameplay here in Warzone, specifically regarding your movements. Really, I feel like this is something every single player should be doing if you're looking to improve in Warzone. So as we go through everything, if you enjoy the video at any point, let me know by dropping a like on it. Would be seriously appreciated. And of course, if you're new to the channel or if you have not already subscribed, feel free to do so. That way you can always stay up to date with absolutely everything going on in COD. So we're here in some private match on Modern Warfare because obviously the movement's the same between MW and Warzone. And there's a few different things, obviously, that a lot of the best players end up doing in their gameplay that, like I said, really separates them from the rest of the entire player base. And this is where the skill gap comes into play. Now, there's a few basic movement tips I wanted to show you guys today to really, show to you guys what you should be working on in game if you really are seriously looking to improve and try and outmaneuver and sort of finesse enemies all day, every day. This is something that I've really tried to apply to my gameplay over the course of the last couple of months, and I've noticed a pretty big improvement, even when it comes down to the KD. So while movement doesn't directly, obviously, affect your stats in any way, it allows you to just generally outplay enemies more consistently, right? And in turn, you're getting more kills, you're getting easier wins, so on and so forth. So the first thing here is super basic. It's just slide canceling. Most players know how to do this by now, but basically, it helps to have your slide on tap to slide, so you don't have to hold your analog stick or hold anything on keyboard and mouse. You just press it once and you're good to slide. Then also auto tack sprint. You guys can see here, when I go forward on my controller, I'm automatically tack sprinting as much as possible. And the benefit of slide canceling here is that when you slide cancel and you do this motion, your tack sprint keeps resetting. As you can see, I'm bringing my gun up to my side, which means I am on the full tack sprint. I'm on maximum speed. Whereas if I just kept sprinting, over time I'm going to bring that gun down and I'm not getting that insane speed boost that tack sprint offers versus regular sprinting. And if you're just sliding here and coming back up, yeah, you'll get your tack sprint here and there, but not nearly as frequently. So slide canceling in general makes you a faster player, a harder target to hit because you're moving faster, and obviously you're going up and down and up and down, which also makes you a harder target to hit as well. If you're not familiar with it yet, slide canceling is simply sprinting, slide, and then jump. So that's the input you want to put in there, whether you're on tactical, on controller, on whatever other button input it might be, or if you're on keyboard and mouse, whatever your sprinting is, slide back to back, and then as you hit that second slide, you also want to hit the jump button right after that, which will bring you back up to that normal stance rather than crouch. So sprinting, slide up, it really just comes down to muscle memory. Like, it's something that might not feel comfortable at first, but after you get it down and you force yourself to continue doing it in game, it becomes second nature. I find myself doing this in every FPS I play on controller at this point, just because I'm so used to doing it in Warzone. And if you really want to get, fancy with it, you can throw in some YYs. That's something that I do, just keep my, fingers warm and my thumbs warm as I bounce off YY a little bit as I'm running around the map. It doesn't really do anything beneficial for you. In a lot of cases, actually, I'll find myself with the wrong gun out because I was YYing too much. But it does help keep your hands warm, and just, I feel like it makes it a bit more smooth just because you have a smoother hand motion when you're going back and forth. But YYs aren't necessary. General slide canceling, though, is going to be a huge movement advantage, because when you tie that into gunfights, say there's an enemy out here in the center of the scrapyard area here, you come slide cancel around this corner, you see him, you can slide back in, slide back out. You're going to get really quick peaks, and you're not going to be an easy target to hit, right? And you can use it to get from point A to point B a lot faster as well. If you were to look this way and you're doing this little strafe, you're obviously a much slower target, whereas if you're slide canceling out, getting up and over, it's a very, very quick point A to point B here that makes you a hard target to hit. You're still getting information. Obviously, you got to be really quick with what you're looking at, so you got to know, okay, I'm looking right there when I want to, peek around here to look. Slide cancel across, you're good to go, right? So slide canceling is the most basic, but also the most important, because it sort of applies to a lot of the gunfights in general, whereas other tips that I want to break down in this video are a bit more gunfight specific, and they're not as universal, I would say. So slide canceling is definitely the number one thing I would say to work on if you're trying to improve your gameplay. If you're not constantly doing it as of right now, it is the movement meta, so you gotta get on that. Now, another thing you'll notice a lot of the best players doing in gunfights, especially when they have cover in front of them, is crouch peeking very consistently and very rapidly. Almost like they're teabagging, but they're actually using it for information. And in some cases, you can even use it to fire off shots. I find myself doing this a lot. If you're in a situation like this where you have some cover in front of you, whether it is a wall like this, it could even be some barrels like this or a barricade even. This is again gonna make you a much harder target to hit because obviously you're bouncing up and down. They're gonna have to track you doing that as is. And especially if they're further away, it's gonna be a smaller target to hit. But at the same time, this is also protecting you more and you're still getting that information. You're able to consistently, bounce in and out of a gunfight. You don't even have to stop shooting in most cases. You can keep going. And if you're holding that shot on target, it's going to be a much easier fight for you than it is whoever's out here in the open or trying to fight you while you're in that covered target. And you can do this, again, sort of tethering, slide canceling into it. Get over here, go up and down a little bit, get that information. Obviously, you're going to be a hard target to hit. You need to slide back into cover. You can do so. A lot of this does come down to muscle memory, right? This is not something you're going to jump into and immediately master. Even now, I find myself struggling to, consistently land things back to back. I'll mess up an input here and there. When I go to slide cancel, I'll jump too early and you see me do sort of that motion. Or when I'm crouching here and I'm trying to, crouch spam and get around, I'll go prone on accident when I don't want to go prone. So it is a lot of muscle memory and it does take some getting used to. But after you get it, those repetitions in and you start to memorize what you need to do when and get that pattern down of where you need to move your hand or whatever it may be, it becomes a lot smoother and a lot more natural. Then the final main movement meta that I want to try and break down for you guys is bunny hopping. Basically, this is going to be like sort of an alternative to just jump shotting, which obviously is you jumping, you're shooting, you're trying to do that. It makes you a bit, again, of a harder target to hit because your opponents aren't always going to predict that you're going to jump out of here and come jumping over rather than just running out. So they basically, you're making your enemies do more work when you're jump shotting in general. But bee hopping is taking it that extra step and sort of trying to tether jump shots together. And personally for me, this is the hardest movement mechanic. This is something that I really struggle to consistently get down. Some days I can hit them just fine. Other times I'll go to try and jump shot and I do that, where it's not really a full-on bee hop, right? That was a little bit better. And you'll notice it in game. It's sort of hard to convey on video what a good bee hop is and what a good bee hop isn't. But it really just comes down to you'll be able to notice how much further one you jump and sort of bounce across. Thus the bee hop, the bounce hop, right? Like that, you guys can see when I jump over and I hit that second bounce, I'm getting a little bit more momentum and a little bit more speed to the left here than I would if I was just jumping and then jumping late, right? So it's a small thing to notice in game. You'll feel it more when you're doing it correctly, but it's also very hard to master because it is all about timing, right? Like my right side jump shots and bee hops are not great. My left side jump shots are very good. Right side, I continuously mess it up. Left side, though, I'm pretty good at it. So it's a really weird thing to consistently nail in game, but really it comes down to you want to hold your thumbstick or WASD in whatever direction you're jumping. So if you're jumping to the right, you're holding your thumbstick to the right or you're holding D. To the left, it's going to be A or left on your thumbstick. Forwards and backwards, obviously it's going to be forwards or backwards on the thumbstick or W and S on the keyboard. And basically you just want to spam that jump button when you're prepping to land there. So right as you touch the ground, that's when you want to do that next hop and you'll be able to nail that B hop. By far, I think the best player when it comes to this is Joe. He is the movement king after all. His B hops are the cleanest I've seen. At times, he can even hit triple B hops where he does 2 extra jumps on top of the initial jump shot, which is an insane movement mechanic that very, very few players can actually nail, but it's going to make you such a hard target to hit. And because of just how Warzone works, it's really not all that hard to stay on target while you're jump shotting, right? You know you have a player locked on your sight, so when you're hitting that, you're doing the jumps. It's not that hard to, consistently land shots on target. Whereas when you're moving at that speed while jumping, it is hard for players to track that. So if you're jumping out, hitting a B hop there, they're going to have to, thoroughly follow that. Aim assist or not, it's not as simple to track that as it is just a player running straight or even a player sliding. So by far, B hopping is the most advanced, I would say, movement mechanic. It's also the hardest to master because of that, but it can definitely be one of the most beneficial as well, just with how it works in general. So those are a few tips. Like I said, you guys can even see my B hops are very sloppy when I'm in here trying to master them. But those are the main movement mechanics that I would recommend trying to master in game. Slide canceling, shoulder peeking, and crouch peeking, and then also the B hops. Those to me are what really separate the best players from the casual players, from the mid-tier players. That is the current movement skill gap in game, and I would say the biggest skill gap in game with Warzone right now. Mastering these things will drastically change your gameplay. It'll lead to easier kills, it'll lead to more kills, and then also, in turn, more wins as well. So if you're looking to improve, that's where I'd recommend you look right now. Weapons are pretty basic, recoil is pretty basic, same deal with loadouts, but the movement meta absolutely is the biggest difference maker in gameplay as of right now as it stands. That's going to do it for today. Hopefully this video helped you guys out some, despite my sloppy B-hops. Hopefully you learned a thing or two. If it did help you out, or if you simply enjoyed it, let me know by dropping a like on it. It would be seriously appreciated. And of course, if you're new here, or if you have not already subscribed, feel free to do so. That way you can always stay up to date with absolutely everything going on in COD. But once again, thank you guys so much for tuning in. And until next time, take it easy. Have an awesome rest of your day. And I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.